It's better.
We live in a world where prejudices and extremes of inequality
are defeated
inside our countries
and between different countries.
where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
what we consume.
Planet where we put back
what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back from
climate change,
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
will restore and protect
Life on land,
The forests,
animals,
the earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
with everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people
Work together.
partnerships of all kinds.
To make these goals a reality.
These are the United Nations global goals.
for sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
To end extreme poverty.
The generation
most determined
To fight injustice
And inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
and this is how it will get done. The global goals.
a 15-year plan
For everyone, everywhere.
With no one left behind.
We will live in a world
Where nobody
anywhere lives in extreme poverty.
where no one
Goes hungry.
Where no one wakes in the morning
asking if there will be food today.
we will live in a world where no child has to die.
Diseases we know how to cure.
and where proper health care
Is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world where
everyone goes to school.
and education gives us the knowledge
and skills.
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
to thrive
And be powerful.
and safe.
We cannot succeed if afterwards we fail.
We will live in a world
Where all people can get clean water.
And proper toilets at home.
At school.
and at work.
We will live in a world where there's sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light,
And power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
We'll live in a world where economies prosper.
And new wealth.
Lead to decent jobs
For everyone.
And we will live in a world
where our industry,
Our infrastructure and our
best innovations,
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
we will live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of inequality
are defeated
inside our countries
and between different countries.
where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume.
Planet where we put back
What we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back from
climate change,
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
will restore and protect
Life on land,
The forests,
animals,
the earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
with everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people
Work together.
partnerships of all kinds.
To make these goals a reality.
These are the United Nations global goals
for sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
To end extreme poverty.
The generation
Most determined.
to fight injustice and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done. The global goals
A 15-year plan
for everyone, everywhere.
with no one left behind.
We will live in a world
Where nobody
anywhere
Lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
where no one
wakes in the morning
Asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world
Where no child has to die.
Diseases we know how to cure.
and where proper health care
is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world where
everyone goes to school
And education gives us the knowledge
and skills.
For a fulfilling life.
we will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
to thrive
And be powerful.
and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is headed back.
we will live in a world
Where all people can get clean water.
And proper toilets at home.
At school.
And at work.
We will live in a world where there's sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light.
and power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
We'll live in a world where economies prosper.
and new wealth.
Lead to decent jobs
For everyone.
and we will live in a world where our industry
Our infrastructure.
Best innovations.
Are not just
Hello.
money, but to make all our lives better.
We live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of inequality
Are defeated.
Better countries.
And they train different countries.
Where people live in cities.
Hello, Kwame.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, good afternoon. How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir.
I've not seen the guest speaker.
Yes, she'll be here. She'll be here soon.
Okay. I will just welcome her briefly because I'm busy here now. But
Yeah, I'll
just
give
to-
it.
I'll stay in the background and listen.
All right, sir.
And communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume.
Planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back.
Threat climate
change.
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas. Restore
and protect
Life on land.
The forests.
animals, the earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
with everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people.
Work together.
Partnerships of all kinds.
To make this work.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from.
I'd like us to introduce ourselves in the comment section. Our guest speaker is coming in shortly. She's having a little bit of a network glitch, but she's here already, and I'm excited. I hope we enjoyed that little clip as we were gearing ourselves to start this webinar. All right, so right there in the chat, I want you to tell me your name. I want you to tell me your affiliation. So my name is Okpeyemi Odunla, and I'm connected with the Interconnections for Making Africa Great, Empowered, and Sustainable Images Initiatives. And we are the ones hosting this webinar under the Household Empowerment and Livelihood Systems. And so right there in the comments, I would put my introduction, and I would love you to do the same as we begin this webinar. All right. All right, I see that our guest is connecting. So right there in the comments, hi, Emmanuel, nice to see you here. Just let me know your affiliation as we begin. So I'm waiting for more people to tell me their names. Hello, sir. Nice to see you, Dr. Laide. Tell me your name and your affiliation. All right, so our guest speaker is in the virtual room, and we're going to begin. So good morning once again, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on imperatives of home gardens in household food security and nutrition. I'm excited to be here. And please, let's keep the introductions going in the comments. Tell me your name, tell me your affiliation, and we'll be going. So right before we begin, I want you to send the link or send the flyer to somebody. Someone needs to be here. Someone needs to be here to learn about home gardening. And so please send the link, send the flyer to somebody. Shortly before I invite our guest speaker to take the virtual stage, I'd like to invite the president of Images Initiatives, who is also the host of this webinar, to welcome our guest and to also share a few words with us. And so, Dr. Olawale Olaide, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Okpeyemi Odunla, for this meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's webinar. It's one of our activities for the year under the Household Empowerment and Lively Productivity System. So we'd like to welcome everybody. And more importantly, the guest speaker, Mrs. Urala Abioye, whom I met some months ago. Actually, I dropped her discussing about home gardening and what she's doing, and that she would like people to come and see what she's doing and all that. So after the dropping, I approached her and said, "Oh, I'm interested in what you are doing because we're also doing similar things in the images." And he said, "Oh, that would be great. But first, I'd like you to visit my garden there." we can discuss further. And as a round-up to this meeting, I fulfilled that promise by visiting our garden. It was amazing what we saw with Okpeyemi and another fellow. So without much ado, I know if I did enjoy the sights in the garden and the variety of things that she raised in the garden, I'm sure today's interaction would be even be much more, because she will be telling us how she started, where she is now, and perhaps what she needs to do in the future, and how you can come on board and join this trade. So without much ado, I'd like to welcome our guest speaker, Mrs. Urala Abioye. It's a pleasure having you, and Ma, we appreciate what you do. And we're just trying to partner with you to part of this process of educating people on what we need to do. Even our garden around us, we can plant different things that can add or contribute to our household empowerment and nutrition. Thank you very much, and welcome everybody. Over.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that short but very important address as you welcomed our guests. So I have with me here, and I'm introducing her to our virtual stage, Mrs. Wuraola Abioye. And, you know, when I met her a few weeks ago, I asked her, I said, how should I introduce you at this webinar? She said, you know what, I'm just a passionate gardener. I'm a passionate home gardener, and that's how I'm going to introduce her. She takes this stage this afternoon. Since I'm in Nigeria, I see that we are still introducing ourselves in the comments. So please go ahead and introduce yourself. So during the course of this webinar, if you have questions, please feel free to put it in the comment section. And I'm sure that even after, you know, she gives her a brief address and tells us about her journey, we would have time to continue. And so Mrs. Wuraola Abioye, you have the floor, ma. We want to see you. We want to hear from you. Over to you, ma.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Wuraola Abioye, a home gardener. I started this garden journey out of a need to be busy and as a therapy for my mental health. It's not been easy, but I've been able to traverse the many funny obstacles I've met along the way with the help of the books I've read and some experiences along the way that I've been able to manage.
Hello, ma.
Once
Can
again,
you show your video so that we can see you, ma?
okay.
Or do you have a presentation? Do you have a PowerPoint presentation?
No, I don't have any PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, but let's see your video. Oh, that will suffice. Let's see your video, please. Yes, please. Let's see your face.
Can you see yourself?
The network has been very funny. That's the problem.
Tell them
Can you see my face now?
I see yourself for me. It's you I'm seeing. It's fine. You can. Good girl.
Can you see my face now? This is Wuraola Abioye.
Yes, we can now. Yes,
I'm sorry if it's not so clear. The network has been a bit icky.
Yes, you can go ahead, ma. We'll see you now.
Oh, okay. So as I was saying, this garden journey was born out of a need to be busy and as a therapy for my mental health. And I sent Okwayemi the before, the during, and the well, where I am now. So that was the place before I moved in, and I started this journey in 2018, April 2018. And this is when I started, 2018. I started with a very few plants, mostly in pots, because the garden had an infestation of termites, and I couldn't really plant anything on the ground until I got rid of the termites. So now you've seen, and that was the picture yesterday. That was the picture I took yesterday. And it's very nice to be here. I hope everyone has questions to ask me on how to get started and what obstacles I've met along the way and how I overcame them.
All right, so we're just going to take a look at Mrs. Wirola's garden, and then we would be asking questions. She would love to answer our questions. And so as we take a look, of course, you can follow her page on Instagram at theplantshop_NG. So we see her garden, and so she would like us to ask questions about gardening, about how she started, how we can start gardening. And I think the first question I would ask, Ma, so let's say we have someone who has no background at all in agriculture. How would you suggest that they start gardening? Mrs. Wirala, we have someone who has no background in agriculture. How would you suggest that they start gardening? You're muted, Ma. Would like to hear your...
Well, I started small. As you can see from the video of when I first started. I started small and I read up on the plants that I was going to use. I used buckets initially. I used buckets and I made sure I got in touch with seasoned gardeners, people who knew what what gardening was all about. I joined various groups and they told me the first thing about gardening is making sure you get very rich soil and knowing the various conditions for growing various plants.
All right, Ma.
Just like we are individuals as persons, each plant has their various needs. They have their various temperaments. Let's put it that way. Some plants are easy care. Some plants are not. Some plants need you to be on top of the job. So for these plants, you have to give them the conditions which will be favorable to them. Some like loamy soil, some like sandy soil, some like a mix of both. Just like I said earlier, like individuals, you have the food you like. That's how plants are too. So my plants, I regard them as individuals. I don't treat all the plants the same. I treat them differently.
Yes,
I give them the required nutrients, the required needs. I meet their required needs. Some don't like water, some like a lot of water. Just like humans, you understand, just like humans.
Yes.
Some people don't like hot food, some like hot. Some plants don't like the sun at all. Some plants thrive in the sun. So for those plants, I make sure I place them. For those plants, I make sure. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
So for those plants, I make sure they get their required needs met. I have desert plants here. I have plants that can stay in the sun all year round. Some that love partial shade, some that love full shade. I'll be showing you the various plants in a minute.
All right, ma. Look forward to that.
Oh, okay.
All
So,
right. I remember, there was a time when we were at your garden and you said something about, you had some fruit trees and you said sometimes you leave the fruits for the birds to eat. And that's a way that you're contributing to life on land and life generally, to biodiversity. Can you really just give us insight as to why you do that? Why do you intentionally leave some fruits on the trees and say, okay, it's for the birds? And as we do that, I will be getting ready to read out some questions in the chats. And if you would like to read out your question, if you can unmute where you are, then get ready. So to that scenario, why do you intentionally do that, where you leave maybe fruits on the trees or nectar, just intentionally for the birds to feed on?
In the natural habitats, some fruits are propagated. Some fruits are propagated by animals. They do better when they are spread by animals. So for my pawpaw, I leave them for birds and squirrels. Some plants I leave for lizards to eat. And when they poop, they don't digest the seeds. Okay. When they poop them out, they poop on the ground. And that's how come you see some plants are sprouting where you did not plant them. They have been propagated naturally by birds and animals. Some I just leave for them to eat, because we have to take care of these animals as well. Naturally, we are supposed to coexist, and the relationship between us and those animals that act as pollinators is symbiotic. They help us, and in return, I feed them. The birds, they get rid of pests for me. Okay. The wasps, they get rid of pests. The lizards, they eat the grasshoppers that eat the leaves of the plants. So that way, I have a like a microsystem here in my garden. I don't use pesticides. Anything I use here is purely organic. I don't use pesticides. I don't use chemicals. I use natural ingredients. I use cinnamon. I use ginger. I use pepper. I use neem oil that is gotten from the neem tree. And I use rice water as fertilizers. I use soybean water to act to give the plants nutrients. I use banana peels to act as fertilizer as well. All this food waste, I have my own compost heap that I dump all my kitchen waste that is devoid of fat, salt, sugar. And I make sure all my kitchen waste I dump in one spot. And that's the soil I use for my planting. So everything in my garden is natural. I don't use anything chemical.
And I love that you said that, because we have a question by Margaret James, and she's saying, big up on this beautiful setup. My question is, how did you get rid of termite infestation? And I know you've touched on that a little bit, but just to explain further. And she said, how did you get rid of termite infestation? And the second question is, source of water. Do you need lots of water to get things moving? So 2 questions. How did you
Yes.
get rid of termites? Okay.
For the termites, you you make sure the environment is not conducive for them. By that I mean not leaving wood around, not leaving dry woods on the ground, making sure all your twigs, all the dead wooden matter is not left on the ground for them to eat. If they don't see any food to eat, they will naturally leave. And then there's this traditional way of getting rid of termites, locust bean water. Because I asked around and I asked seasoned farmers what I can use, and they said locust bean water. When locust bean is being processed, the water that is used for it, I bought that in kegs. It was from Oyo, I remember. I bought that, and they said I should use it prior to when it's about to rain, which I did. And luckily for me, it rained like that evening. I was watching the weather forecast. I was monitoring. So I used it. Excuse me. I sprinkled it all over the floor and cleared everywhere of debris. No wooden matter, no twigs on the floor, no dry leaves. I made sure everywhere was clear. Then I sprinkled the water, I poured it everywhere. And the rain fell and it sank deep. I did it like twice. And it has worked. It worked for me. So that is what I did. And for water, fortunately for me, I have a well, a deep well. That's natural water. It's like spring water. It's coming from underground. And because I am living around an area where there's a river close by, the well doesn't dry up. But during the rainy season, I harvest a lot of rainwater. I've bought kegs and like tanks where I store rainwater that I use for some of the plants. And then I've conditioned my plants in such a way that I can wet them every other day during the harmattan. Some plants are hardier than others. You have to be watchful to know which plants need a lot of water. And for those plants, I make sure they're in the shade so that they don't lose so much water from transpiration. That's when water leaves the soil. I then mulch during the dry season. I mulch. When you mulch, it's keeping dry matter like dry leaves on top of your pots, so that the water that is in the pot will not evaporate. It will stay useful to the plant. It will not leave. So that way, that's how I manage the water problem.
All right, thank you so much, Ma. We have a Mr. Joseph Adebodun. Your hands are raised. You can unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Kudos to Madam Abuye for this initiative. My question coming from, it's related to my background. I work with the Ministry of Youth and Sport, the TIFE department. In what way can this initiative contribute to the empowerment of the youth in Africa? Thank you.
Okay. Like I said before, I used to work in the bank and then I resigned. And I couldn't just stay home, not doing anything. And I'd always had a passion for planting things, for seeing things grow, watching things evolve. So you can do the same by starting small. I started it small, and then now I sell my plants. I sell my plants. And people have been known to grow food in sacks. You can actually grow yams in sacks. The only thing constraining me now is a lack of space. If I had enough space, I'll grow fruit trees, I'll grow food items. And if you are consistent and you're passionate, you will see results. I have pawpaw trees here. I have orange trees, soursop trees. I have my pawpaw tree fruits, and it fruits quite well. That is my pawpaw tree there. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm going to go near it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have pawpaw trees.
Loud and clear.
That's another one. I have guava tree. That's that one over there. Then I have soursop trees here. I have soursop trees. I have custard apple. This is another soursop tree. This is a pitanga, and it's fruiting at the moment. I have pomegranates. That's also fruiting at the moment. Can you see? That's my pomegranate tree. And this is my lemon tree. It's even in a pot and it's fruiting. So with patience and consistency, you can actually achieve anything. So if the government can maybe apportion lands to youths and give them the proper training, the issue of starvation, food scarcity will be a thing of the past. You can actually grow vegetables in your backyard. I have bitter leaf trees. I grow tomatoes during the season. By next month, I will start growing the tomatoes that I can harvest when the rains are gone. The ones you grow when the rains are not so much. I plant that. I plant peppers as well, bell peppers. I plant anything that is consumable, that will not entail me using up a lot of land. I plant. So anything is possible if you set your mind to it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think if I can just summarize what you are saying, it's
Yes.
possible that this particular initiative can contribute a lot to the empowerment of the youth. But again,
Yes.
challenges will be finance and land.
Well, finance, like I said, I started small. What you do is, for in your neighborhood, once people know you grow a certain item, maybe spinach, for instance, or lettuce or cabbages, they'll patronize you if they know it's organic. Everybody is going organic now, and everybody is in search of food that contains no chemical. So if you have very good neighbors, or you put the word out and you start, maybe in containers, you can grow spinach, you can grow basically anything in containers. Like I just showed you, I'm growing my lemon in a container. My pomegranate is in a container. But the container just has to be big. And anything is possible if you put your mind to it. So this is a view of what I have now as against how I started. So start small and grow. That's what I will advise. Start small and grow. It is when you want to start big that you might fail at it. Start small and go with the flow. You learn along the way. You really don't need so much. You don't need a lot. Just a little bit of space and where to put. You can go to anywhere where there are trees, where there are fallen leaves, and scrape up the topsoil. That's what we use. That's what we plant with topsoil, a good topsoil, and go to the abattoir or where they keep cows or horses or rabbits and get the manure or chicken. But the problem with chicken is it has to be well aged. If it's not well aged, it might impact the plants negatively because it will burn the leaves and the roots. So these are things you can source. You don't even need fertilizers. You don't need money to buy fertilizers. If you can go there and get some. Like I have arrangements with people who own rabbits, and I get rabbit poo from them. And the rabbit wee, which acts as an insecticide and a foliar feed for the plants as well.
Thank you so much, Ma. I think it's so encouraging that, you know, from having no background in agriculture, you're able to come up with this. We have a few suggestions in the comment section or the chat. Taiwo Onolakpo says that the use of cassava water on termite hills and the termites disappeared. And then Margaret James says, maybe a small suggestion, you could move any vegetable crops to vertical farming so that it creates more space in the garden. Yes, and I see that Dr. Ajayi
so
also,
for vertical, for the vertical gardening, you can see my stands. When you came the last time, I told you because I had no more space, I made stands. Some people use blocks to elevate their plants. I made stands. I didn't just start making the stands in one day. I saved up from the sale of so many of the plants. I'm into ornamental plants. But what works for ornamental will also work for edible plants and food and crops. So I made stands.
Yes,
and that's a good suggestion. I always tell people, if you don't have any floor horizontally anymore, go vertical.
That's true.
Like I said, anything is possible if you put your mind to it.
Yes, no. All right, Ma. There's a question here, although I know you mentioned that you're more into ornamental plants, but the question says, I like to grow herbal plants, but how can I get viable seeds for those herbal plants? So somebody here wants to grow herbal plants and is wondering, where can I get viable seeds?
You can go to Nihot. Nihot is very good for food crops, seeds. I got my pawpaw seeds from Nihot. I got my tomato seeds from Nihot. I get my pepper seeds from Nihot. I also get any vegetables, the seeds I get from Nihot. So they're very good. And I think any reputable plant shop, they sell seeds as well. They sell seeds as well. If you're in Lagos, You can Google LGC, Lagos Garden Company, LGC. LGC sells seeds.
All right,
But Nihot is what I know in Ibadan. Nihot, and then the Jubilee agro people in Jericho, they sell seeds too in Ibadan. But Nihot is what I use.
All right, ma. There's another question that says, does leaving some of your fruits for birds affect your neighbors? Because the birds would eat on their own fruits when yours are not ready. So do your neighbors complain?
No, my neighbors do not complain because the neighbors, they have fruits. They've been here before I came. From the picture I showed you, the house next on both sides have been inhabited before I came here. My house wasn't habitable when I moved here. I had to renovate it myself because I was interested in it because of the land, because of the space that it had. So I don't think it does. It doesn't. And they haven't complained to me at all. So it's just leaving one or two for them. Even when everything is ripe at the same time, I remove some and leave one for them. My mulberry tree, this is my mulberry tree. This one here. That's my mulberry tree. And you can see it's got berries. It's got a lot of berries. So I harvest some and I leave some for the birds, the lizards, the squirrels, and even the bats. Yes, I have a lot of bats coming in the night to feast on my guava, to feast on the mulberry, and on my pawpaw. The thing is, they will not eat what is not ripe. That's one thing about animals. They are very, very considerate. They will not just destroy a fruit that is not ripe. It's humans that do that out of greed. They will harvest what is not ripe and keep it until it's ripe. I always harvest it when it's almost ripe, and then I take what I want to take and I leave the rest. And it's until it's well ripened that the animals will go near it. So that's the difference between us and the animals.
Thank you, Ma.
You're welcome.
Dr. Ajayi, who is also one of the directors on that Images Initiative, he says that beyond, vertical farming, pots on racks, engaging PVC pipes and PET bottles of various sizes hanging from sustain. Oh, Dr. Ajayi is here. Would you like to give to speak instead of me?
Yeah, just to show my face.
All right.
Please continue. Yeah,
all right. So he's saying you can also engage.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
PVC pipes, PET bottles of various sizes hanging from suspended heights so that we use less soil and less water. We have another question, Ma. This question says, please, can we know how to use rabbit urine as pesticide and foliage fertilizer?
So I will come to that question in a minute.
Yes.
So to buttress what Dr. Ajayi said, this is my orchid growing in coconut husk. I didn't use any PET bottles.
Beautiful.
I tried to mimic the natural environment as much as possible. So this is my orchid growing in coconut husk. And I have plants suspended as well, like he said. I have plants suspended. Some plants will only grow very well when they are suspended because they are trailing. Like the ugu plant now, the ugu vegetable, you have to make a trellis for it. If not, it won't do well. Likewise, passion fruit. Passion fruit has to have a place to trail. So I use my trees for some of those plants that trail so that it can have somewhere to hang onto. Then as for using the rabbit wheel, to come back to that question, because rabbits don't really wee as often as other animals. You know, most of their diet is water-based. So their wee is quite concentrated, very, very concentrated. So if you get rabbit wee, 1 part rabbit wee to 10 parts water. That's how I use it. 1 part rabbit wee. So if you have 1 liter of rabbit wee, you have to dilute it to 10 liters of water. Does that answer the question?
Yes, ma, I believe so. Doctor, I think the question came from Abigail. I believe that answers your question, please. And that's so insightful, ma, because we have another question, and it's such an insightful webinar because a lot of questions are coming in. And the question says that we know that some of these animals are disease vectors. So how do we manage this? The fact that they're disease vectors, but we can still use some of their byproducts or their products as fertilizers.
Yes, we do. Like the manures that we use, we allow the manures to age. We don't use it fresh. We allow the manures to age very well. Like for the chicken manure, you allow the chicken manure to age 6 weeks to a month, some months. Like when I go to Polo Club to buy manure, I don't buy the freshly poured manure. I ask for the ones the ones that are well aged. That way, some pathogens in them would have died a natural death. Like this is my manure, this is where I keep my manure in sacks. And I leave it open when it's sunny. I cover it when it's raining. And so that's what I can say. I let the manure age very well, very well. And I only use horse and rabbit. Most times I don't use cow manure because it encourages weeds.
Thank you so much for that, Ma. Another question says, what are the various natural ways to preserve those garden fruits or products without involving chemical preservatives?
I read up on some things on the internet about preserving food. I've read about putting oranges in water and keeping them in a cool place. Wrapping the tops of plantains or banana with a cling film to discourage ripening too fast. And not putting potatoes with plantains or bananas because they emit a kind of gas that encourage fast ripening. So I think if you have space, just spread out your produce in a cool, dark, and hairy place. That should preserve them.
All right, ma'am. Thank you so much, Ma. And even as the webinar will be closing out in a bit, but I love this question by Dr. Mina, and I think this would let us know. I want you to really speak on this. She says, how much to set up one? I think she's talking about a garden in PH. So Ma, I want you to talk to us about how you help people set up gardens. How, I know this started out from a passion therapy for you, but I know you take it now as your profession. So how do you help people set up gardens? She says this would like to set this up in communities. So over to you, Ma. How do you help to set up gardens?
Okay. For most people that I set up gardens for, some have land and they have the funds to go about it. So what we do is I take a look at the space they have. If it's a balcony, the amount of sunlight it gets, the amount of shade it gets, and the likes or the preferences to the kind of leaves the client prefers. So I work based on the client's preferences. And of course, I advise. If it's a sunny place, I advise the customer or client, as you want to call it, what kind of plants that will thrive in the space they have. Some have equal amounts of shade and sun, and some shade in between. So I just advise them, and different plants with different prices. So depending on your budget, I advise on which plants to get, which plants would thrive more, and how to set it up. The containers to get, the materials to get, like the compost, the planting soil, and the planting medium, and all.
All right, man. So Ma, apart from, we have your Instagram handle, but if people would like to, get in touch with you and be your potential clients, how can they reach out to you, your location or your contacts?
I'm located in Bodija, New Bodija, Ibadan. And my house is number 13, Independence Estate. And you can reach me on 080-2323-0927. My number is on my Instagram page. You can just WhatsApp me or email me. My email is wuraola_abioye@gmail.com.
All right, Ma. Thank you so much. I believe that more people would get in touch with you. But before we round up this webinar, there's one question. How do you deal with the plants having? Have you ever had a disease breakout or in your garden?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
How did you manage
that?
Yes,
it happens a lot. There was a time I had an infestation of mealybugs and aphids. So what I did was I first used water to spray the plants down, to hose the plants down. I removed all the plants that were infected. I removed them and put them in one place. The ones that were badly infected that might not survive, of course, I got rid of them, sadly. And I had to burn them, because if you don't get rid of the infected plants, in a very how will I put it? In a very intentional way. It will ask the other plants, even if you have thrown them out of your garden. These things have a way of blowing with the wind, and it comes and infects your plants again. So I hose them down, wash them thoroughly. It's a hardest job, but as long as you don't lose a plant, it's something you'll be willing and happy to do. So I hose them down, and I use dishwashing liquid, maybe some spoonfuls, and I make ginger, garlic, pepper, fresh pepper, blend everything together and sieve it out very well. I use the chaff, I throw it in my compost heap. That would deter any fungal growth in the compost heap. Then I use the water, and I use a spray. I use a spray to spray all the plants. I have a knapsack that I use. I mix it. I mix this ginger, cinnamon at times. I might use cinnamon water at times. That helps with fungal infections. Cinnamon in hot water, I leave it to cool down, strain it out, and then I dilute it, and then I use it to spray the leaves and the stems. That deters fungal infections. Then for the other pests, like aphids and mealybugs, that's what I use. Ginger, pepper. At times I use onion water. You can also use orange peels, the ones the malas use, the peels. I go there, I buy at times, some give me, and I soak it overnight in warm water, and I add maybe a few spoonfuls of neem oil, and I spray, and it works. It works for me. So if you have, hello, are you with me?
Yes, ma, we can hear you.
So if you have a breakout, and you can reach out to me, I'll give you step-by-step instructions on how to do the mixing for your plants, for home gardening. But for large-scale gardening, that's different. What they do is different. I don't know.
All right, ma.
A lot of them use synthetic chemical stuff. I don't. I only use organic stuff because I'm also allergic to these things. I have allergies, so I try to stay away from chemicals.
Yes, ma. Thank you so much, ma. All right, ma.
But the first and foremost thing is you can't have a garden and say you want to sit down, fold your hands, and get a gardener to. You have to be hands-on. You have to be hands-on. You have to know how a plant should look and how to go about treating them. If the leaves are burnt, it could be too much sun, it could be not enough water, it could be too much water, it could be a root problem. So you have to be very observant, and you have to be very, very intentional about the way you do your gardening. That way, you really won't run into much problems.
Thank you so much, ma.
You're welcome.
I can see Dr. Mina saying we are willing to work with you. And so I'm sure you're going to get a lot of messages, emails after
I
this
hope
webinar.
I'm going to be paid a salary if I'm working with you.
Definitely. I believe Dr. Mena is nodding a yes. All right, Ma, if you would leave us with a few words, what would those few words be as we're closing this webinar? It has been a very rich webinar, but if you will leave us with, I believe we can continue the conversation with Mrs. Abioye. We have her email, it's in the chat, we have her WhatsApp, and of course her Instagram. So if you will leave us with a few words, Ma, what would these words be?
The few words I have will be, in your little space, make a difference. In your little space, make a difference. And whatever your hand finds to do it with all your strength and with all your might and with every intention of blessing the earth, giving back to nature. I feel I am helping nature. I am helping Mother Nature put things back the way they should be. In my own little space, I'm trying to conserve the earth. I'm trying to protect the environment. I have turned a barren place into a fertile place. And that to me is a reward even money cannot buy. It gives me joy. So in your little space, make a difference. Make a difference that people can see. You can't come to my house and not notice a difference in the quality of air. I have had people come to visit me over and over again because they said they just want to stay in my space. They just want to stay around my garden. And that the sleep they get when they come to my home is always different. And that means a lot to me. That means I'm doing something right. So that's the little word I have to leave.
Thank you.
I can live with you. Make a
you.
difference in whatever you do.
Thank you, man. I can attest to that. When we visited your garden, it was just amazing, and we just had that relaxing mood even as we were leaving. So thank you so much, Ma. One word to describe today's webinar. I want to say it in the chat. I see someone say, so glad to be here. This is eye-opening. So what have you learned today? Just one word. Was it amazing? Was it inspiring? Let's see it in the chat. Thank you so much, Ma, for being here today. We know that, it's been a busy season for you, but you have really taken our time to be here. So we want to say very big thank you on behalf of the president. That he is so busy today, so he had to leave. I'm trying to see if he's here, but he sends his regards. So thank you so much, Ma. This webinar series would continue next week as we are hosting webinars all through this month for the for Images initiatives, and Images stands for Interconnections for Making Africa great, empowered, and sustainable. So next week we have another webinar, so watch out for the flyer, and thank you also for being here. So thank you so much, Ma, and goodbye for now. Thank you, everyone. Please do well to follow our Instagram. Thank you, Ma, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm really happy. I was really happy to be a part of this initiative. And remember, the oxygen you breathe in is emitted by plants, and the carbon dioxide that is coming out of you is beneficial to plants. Remember that. Plant a plant today.
Thank you so much, Ma. All right, everyone. Thank you, and bye, everyone.
Goodbye. Have a blessed day, all.
These are the United Nations global goals
for sustainable development.
Dupe, I'm done, no.
We can be.
We must be the first generation in extreme poverty.
The generation
Most determined
to fight injustice and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done.
The global goals.
A 15-year plan
For everyone. Everywhere.
with no one left behind.
We will live in a world
Where nobody
anywhere
Lives in extreme poverty.
where no one
goes hungry.
Where no one
wakes in the morning
Asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die of
Diseases we know how to cure.
and where proper health care is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
Where everyone
Goes to school. And education gives us the knowledge
and skills
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
To thrive and be powerful and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is held back.
we will live in a world
Where all people can get clean water.
and proper toilets at home, at school, and at work.
We will live in a world where
There's sustainable energy for everyone. Heat, light, and power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
We'll live in a world where economies prosper.
And new wealth
lead to decent jobs
for everyone.
and we will live in a world where our industry
Our infrastructure and our
Best innovations.
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
we will live in a world
where prejudices and extremes of inequality
Are defeated.
inside our countries
And between different countries.
Where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
And support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume. Planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back.
climate change.
where we restore
And protect the life in our oceans and seas.
will restore
and protect
life on land.
The forests.
animals,
the earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
and answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
where all countries and we their people
Work together.
partnerships of all kinds
To make these goals a reality.
These are the United Nations global goals
for sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
To end extreme poverty.
The generation
Most determined.
to fight injustice and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done. The global goals
A 15-year plan
For everyone,
everywhere.
With no one left behind.
We will live in a world
Where nobody
anywhere
Lives in extreme poverty.
where no one
goes hungry.
Where no one
Wakes in the morning
Asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die of
diseases we know how to cure.
and where proper health care
is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
Where everyone
goes to school
And education gives us the knowledge
and skills
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
to thrive
And be powerful and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is held back.
We will live in a world
Where all people can get clean water.
and proper toilets at home, at school, and at work.
We will live in a world where
There's sustainable energy for everyone. Heat, light, and power for the whole planet.
without destroying the planet.
We'll live in a world where economies prosper.
and new wealth
lead to decent jobs
for everyone.
And we will live in a world
where our industry,
our infrastructure, and our
Best innovations
are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
we will live in a world where prejudices and extremes of inequality are defeated.
Inside our countries,
And between different countries.
where people live in cities and communities
That are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume.
Planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back.
climate change.
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
restore, and protect
Life on land.
The forests.
animals,
The earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
and answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people.
Work together.
Partnerships of all kinds.
to make these goals a reality.
These are the United Nations global goals
For sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
Let's make it